Over the past year or so, we have ranked basically every single jutsu that's available in Naruto Shinobi Striker on this channel. But there is one category that we haven't looked at yet. One that's actually super important in your loadout, and that's the substitution jutsus. One of the key choices that can make or break your build. So today we'll be looking at all 22 of them and we'll rank them from worst to best. So let's not waste any more time and get into it. At the very bottom of the list, coming in at number 22, we have the bird clone jutsu. When triggered, it leaves behind a clone that bursts into a flock of crows, and if the attacker hits it, there's a small chance it will lower their attack and defense. The thing is, a lot of the clone type substitutions are kinda similar, so something has to take the last spot. And this one just doesn't offer much in terms of its effect. The debuff isn't guaranteed, and when it does land, it's not all that impactful compared to what other subs can do, which is why it ends up down here. At number 21, we have the ink clone. When triggered, it splatters the attacker's screen with ink, covering their UI for a few seconds. It can definitely be a bit annoying to deal with, especially in a close fight, but that's about where the impact ends. It doesn't actually stop the enemy from attacking or moving, so most players can just fight through it. It's more of a distraction than anything else, which is why it lands this low on the list. At number 20 is the water clone jutsu. When an enemy hits the clone, their defense gets lowered for a short period, which can make it easier to take down the enemy in follow-up attacks. The problem though is the chance of it actually connecting. Enemies often whiff right past it or trigger it too far away to get the debuff. It's not terrible, but it's definitely one of the less reliable clone subs out there. At number 19, we've got the wood clone jutsu. If triggered, this one briefly stops the enemy and then slows their movement speed for a little while, which can definitely help you disengage or chase someone down. But the thing is, slowing someone's movement just isn't all that impactful unless you're already in a good position to punish them. And like with most of these clone substitutions, they're all pretty similar, so when ranking them, it mainly comes down to how strong their added effect is, and sadly this one just isn't all that threatening. Coming in at 18 is the snake clone jutsu. If it hits, it poisons the attacker, draining their health over time and stopping them from healing while it lasts. It also seems to connect more often than some of the other lower rank clones, which is a nice bonus. The downside is that the poison fades away pretty quickly, so it usually won't be the thing that secures you a kill on its own. Still, it feels a little more useful than the previous entries. Taking a break from the clone jutsus for a moment, we have Bury on Breakthrough. When you use this one, instead of just escaping, you immediately dash back at the enemy with a counter attack that deals a bit of damage and even shaves off some of their secret technique gauge. On paper, that does sound pretty cool, but in practice, it's kind of risky. The cooldown is a massive 40 seconds, and because it launches you straight at the enemy, it doesn't really give you any space to breathe. You often end up right back in danger, which kind of defeats the point of a substitution. At number 16, we have the paper clone jutsu. When triggered, it briefly stuns the enemy and seals their ninjutsu, stopping them from using any jutsu at all for a few seconds. That might not sound like much, but in the middle of a teamfight, it can ruin someone's combo or even save you from a deadly attack. It's definitely a step up from the clone jutsus before it, just because of how disruptive it can be. And it's one of the first entries on the list that can really swing a fight if it procs at the right time. At number 15 is the stone clone jutsu. Enemies who hit it get their defense reduced for a short while, which is already solid, but the real kicker is that you also get a small speed buff when you sub out. That combo of debuffing your attacker whilst also boosting your own mobility gives this one a bit more utility than most of the clones. It's still not super flashy, but having two effects in one substitution definitely makes it a standout compared to the others around this level. At number 14 is the plain old substitution jutsu, the default one everyone starts with. It's still decent purely because of its extremely low cooldown of just 20 seconds, meaning you can use it more than any other sub in the game. The downside though is that it doesn't leave behind anything to distract the enemy like the clones jutsus, so they can immediately turn and start simply targeting you again. It's definitely reliable and quick, but it just doesn't offer more than a simple escape. And at number 13, we have the Shadow Clone Jutsu. This is basically the simplest of the actual clone substitutions. And while it's nothing flashy, it does have a couple of nice perks. It gives you a small defense boost after using it, and more importantly, the clone itself actually lingers a little bit longer than most of the others, which can throw enemies off and make it harder for them to immediately find you. It's still a pretty basic option, but a viable choice nonetheless. At number 12, we've got the Sand Clone Jutsu. This one is pretty straightforward. If an enemy hits it, they get paralyzed for a moment, giving you a perfect opening to counterattack or escape. a stun is always valuable, especially in fast-paced fights where just a second of downtime can completely flip things around. It's simple, but you know, it gets the job done. Coming in at number 11 is the Crystal Ice Mirror Clone Jutsu. It's similar to the Sand Clone Jutsu in that it stuns enemies, but this one goes a step further by also increasing their ninjutsu and substitution cooldowns while they're frozen. And that extra little effect makes a difference. Not only are they stunned, but even after they recover, their options stay limited for a while, which is pretty useful in teamfights. And just ahead at number 10 is Lightning Style Shadow Clone Jutsu. Once again, it kinda works like the last two entries, stunning their target when triggered, but it also lowers their attack power for a short time. Between that and the quick shock it gives, it can help you turn the fight around if you're getting pressured. Honestly, this one and the Ice Clone one are pretty interchangeable. They're both great, but whichever one you prefer really just comes down to your playstyle. At number 9, we have the Clay Clone Jutsu. When used, it leaves behind a clone that detonates after a short delay, dealing a bit of damage to anyone nearby. What makes it a standout from the basic other clone jutsus is how reliable it is. The explosion often connects even if the enemy is trying to dodge away. It might not deal a huge amount of damage, but it's consistent and can easily interrupt enemies, which is why it's one of the better standard clone subs. Coming in at number 8 is Shadow Clone Explosion. It works very similarly to Clay Clone, but this time the clone actively chases the enemy before detonating, and it's a much bigger and stronger explosion. It's a lot more threatening and way more likely to connect, but the trade-off is its massive 40-second cooldown, which means you can't rely on it too often. Still, when it does go off, it hits hard and can catch opponents off guard easily. At number 7, we've got Yomotsu Hirasaka. When you use it, you teleport into separate dimensions for 3 seconds, becoming completely untargetable while being able to move around freely. It has a slightly higher cooldown at 30 seconds, but that's a small price to pay for how powerful it is, especially for heal types who often need that safe reposition. It's basically a guaranteed escape button if you use it at the right time. And at number 6 is Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu. A unique substitution because it actually gives you 2 substitution charges instead of just 1, letting you sub out twice and giving you much more leeway in a fight. The catch is that it has a pretty long 40-second cooldown, so you need to be careful not to waste them too quickly. Still, having the extra layer of safety is incredibly valuable, especially in modes like Survival Battle where you're going to be dying often, so the longer cooldown doesn't really affect you as much. Kicking off our top 5 is the newest substitution in the game, Ninetales Raiment. After subbing, you cloak yourself in the Ninetales chakra, granting you super armor for a few seconds. It's honestly pretty underused right now, which is surprising because super armor is useful basically in every situation. Whether you're escaping pressure, pushing an objective, or just trying to win a 1v1 trade. It's simple but way stronger than people give it credit for, and that's why it deserves to be in the top 5 in my opinion. At number 4, we've got High Speed Movement. This one gives you a burst of movement speed right after subbing, letting you quickly get out of danger or chase down fleeing enemies. It's a great all-around option, especially for aggressive players, though it has started to fall off a bit thanks to a newer sub that does the same thing but even better. Still, it's probably the best free sub in the game, so if you're a free-to-play player, make sure to try this one out at least. Taking the first spot on the list is the fan favorite Time Space Hop. After using it, you become invulnerable to almost all attacks for around 5 seconds, which makes it one of the safest and most frustrating substitutions to deal with in the game. It is insanely popular and often considered broken, and while it is definitely amazing, I actually think there are a couple of subs now that can outshine it. But there's no denying just how reliable it is, even with the slightly longer 30-second cooldown. At number 2, we have Swift Step, which is basically just high movement speed but on steroids. It gives you increased movement speed, attack tracking, and evasion range all at once, letting you dodge and weave around enemies like crazy. It has the same cooldown as high speed movement too, so there's really no downside. It's just a straight up better version and one of the strongest subs in the game right now. And finally, at number 1 is Emergency Exit. This one is just pure value. After subbing out, it heals you and removes any status ailments you've been hit with. It's an effect that's always useful, no matter what situation you're in, and it only has a 25-second cooldown, which is low compared to something like Time Space Hop at 30. It's reliable, consistent, and always gives you something back, which is exactly why it takes the top spot. And that's all of the substitutions ranked. Let me know what you think about the list in the comment section below and what you do or don't agree with. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!